Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving deep into The Long Game. And let me tell you, this strategy book by Dory Clark acts way less like a gentle patience manual and a whole lot more like a really sharp knife. In The Long Game, Dory Clark completely cuts through this sweet little lie we tell ourselves that speed always proves wisdom, right? The long game does not flatter the busy mind. Instead, the long game starts exactly where most ambition fails. It shows us exactly why incredibly smart people keep making choices that might help their week, but literally starve their decade. If you want to master true strategic alignment, this is absolutely your guide.
So your calendar may be defending a mistake. Think about that for a second. I want to challenge your whole paradigm right out of the gate here. Look at the thing you probably call progress, that completely packed daily schedule of yours. Is all that intense, frantic motion actually pointing you toward a chosen future? Or is it really just moving to mask a total lack of direction? We do this all the time. We confuse a full, exhausting calendar with a truly strategic life.
Okay, get ready for a bit of a reality slap. You're probably constantly trying to optimize your calendar, right? We all are. But that calendar is actually sorting you into what's called a sunk cost defense architecture. This is the practice of using extreme productivity to justify, organize, and defend a prior, outdated commitment. It's wild because the habit feels incredibly clean and productive on the surface, but the underlying mechanism, it's actually pretty cruel. And the reason it's cruel is because in this architecture, your attention essentially becomes a guard dog for your old choices. It's exactly like a plant that rushes to bear fruit before it even grows roots. It just ends up burning its own future. In the exact same way, a person who is constantly rushing for titles, booking back-to-back meetings, and chasing quick applause remains tragically loyal to the wrong choice. And listen, this is not laziness. No, it's the hidden cost of staying loyal to a path that is quite simply expired. Let's move on to Section 2, the wound, the cost of staying strategic too long. So the old paradigm, the one we've all been taught, tells us to just keep doors open. It says, more options automatically mean more freedom. But here is the new realization. Doors are not free. To fuse optionality charges a really heavy rent on your focus and your emotional bandwidth. You might be keeping all these paths open to feel safe, but they are absolutely draining the very room you're currently standing in. We call this the optionality tax. It's the hidden carrying cost, meaning your attention, your energy, your hard-earned reputation, that gets entirely drained by keeping way too many unaligned paths open. This tax forces high performers to look incredibly busy on the outside while feeling completely hollow inside. They basically end up starving their chosen future because they're just too busy hoarding all these other possible ones. So, ask yourself, what did you actually protect? Was it the work or just the image of being right? Try to think of a specific memory right now, a time when you stayed on a path simply out of embarrassment, where leaving just felt like a massive weakness. Now place this lens over that memory. When you made that choice to stay, were you protecting the actual work, or were you really just protecting your sunk cost identity so you wouldn't have to grieve the version of yourself who made that initial choice? It perfectly illustrates this quote, "Strategy starts when the defense rests." Think about ancient Rome. They practically drained their own center just to protect these far-off frontiers, all because withdrawing looked weak to their enemies. And eventually, the border itself became the empire's ultimate tax. Your clever mind will absolutely weaponize its own intelligence to avoid making a new allegiance. It'll build a courtroom in your head in seconds to defend an old choice. But true strategy? That only begins when you finally drop that defense. All right, Section 3, the descent, maturation over momentum. Let's break this down. Momentum asks, what is next? It's that frantic, never-ending need for public proof and validation. But maturation asks, what is not ready yet? This is the quiet discipline of holding back. Think of a master baker, a really good baker, knows that bread only rises when they actually stop touching it. If you just push and knead the dough forever, you literally kill the very structure you were trying to build in the first place. Picture a green fig cut open before it's actually ripened. Just imagine it sitting there on a kitchen windowsill. From across the room, it looks completely finished, right? The skin is tight, the shape is perfect, the promise of the fruit is completely intact. But then you take a knife and cut it open, and the inside is pale, it's hard, it's quiet, it's totally unripe. This perfectly represents a premature life choice that was forced entirely by a hunger for outside validation. As the saying goes, a premature choice can wear a perfect suit. Look, there's no villain here. There's no massive scandal going on. It is really just a matter of timing.
But you have to understand the true cost of a wrong choice isn't just the opportunity you might have missed, it's the person you become while you're busy defending it. You start growing sharp in all the wrong places. You gain serious skill in self persuasion, and you start calling that constant, exhausting, everyday strain a season. So, the absolutely crucial point to take away here is this: a rest is not dead space. Think about music for a second. In a piece of music, a rest isn't just some empty void. It is the exact element that gives the rhythm its shape. It's what makes the force of the next note legible to the listener. A life with absolutely no rests, a life that is constantly in motion, well, it simply cannot hear its own signal. Which brings us to section 4, the turn, choice hygiene. This is where we really start working on the architecture of the self. The old paradigm tells us that volume proves your worth. Volume stands there and says, hey, look how much I carry. But true alignment, that proves its worth through subtraction. Alignment says, look at what I no longer drag. You actually prove your strategic focus by looking at what you are willingly able to set down. And that brings us to choice hygiene. This is the active monthly craft of auditing your recurring yeses and actively removing stale futures before they can colonize your present. Think of it as a form of subtraction with a pulse. It's just like biology. The human body is constantly clearing out dead cells so that new living tissue can renew itself. If your body kept every single old cell just to honor it, you'd be incredibly sick. Well, guess what? Your schedule requires that exact same biological clearing. So I have to ask you this kind of painful question. What body is your schedule building? I want you to look at your calendar not as the enemy, but as forensic evidence. Every single hour you've booked is an unseen vote for a future self. Every yes you uttered made a body. Does the body of work you're actually building out there reflect the future you claim to want? Or does it just reflect the past you're terrified of losing? Let's wrap this up in section 5, resolution, the long game filter. The long game filter really requires daily practice, and it breaks down into 4 parts. First, you have to audit those recurring yeses. Start treating them as active allocations of your actual life force. Second, close your low-integrity options. Just shut the doors that are draining the room. Third, delay exposure until the structure fully forms. Let the work mature before you go out seeking applause. And finally, tolerate social delay without panic. You really have to accept reputation lag. The world might understand your good choice a little late, and in the meantime, you have to stop feeding every single appetite that flatters you. Remember this, you are allowed to outgrow a plan. Let me say that again. You are absolutely allowed to outgrow a plan way before the crowd understands why you're doing it. You are allowed to walk right out of a bright, prestigious room if staying in there costs you your future heir. The wrong door was never your destiny. It was always just a test of your appetite. If you're a high performer realizing right now that you need to shift from just pure endurance to true strategic alignment, you need a place to actually practice this. I highly recommend you deep dive into this philosophy, continue the internal transformation at upgowise.com. It's a space specifically designed for this exact kind of intellectual refinement and self-mastery. As we conclude this masterclass, I want you to hold on to this one final permanent truth. Stop using speed to excuse your imprecision. Stop using loyalty to hide your fear. Stop making the exact same old choice and trying to call that ache discipline. Because in the end, hurry is the costly choice.